How's it going? Welcome to a brand new edition of the Build Series live here in New York City. My name is Kevin Kenny, and our guest today is one of the most decorated individuals in the history of music. I'm talking 16-time Grammy Award winner, an Emmy winner, a Golden Globe winner. He's been nominated for 3 Oscars. Please give it up for our guest, Mr. David Foster.
So, do I take this mic? Yeah.
Am I stuck?
I have a mic there. Well, I mean, you don't know what that song is.
That was a number 14 hit. You did tell me that.
I did tell you that.
And if I get it wrong, we can't show Billboard.
That's true. It was the only instrumental hit that I ever had, and it was from a movie.
Instrumental. What year? We're getting some oohs and ahs. Anybody just right off the bat recognize it? Show of hands.
Love theme from
St. Elmo's Fire, which you did the whole, but I do know you did the whole film score for.
Yeah,
all right, there you go.
I mean, it's not fair. I mean, you were, how old are you?
I was not old enough for
You were
Elmo's
born
Fire.
an hour ago, let's be honest.
Yes, exactly. About a day old.
Anyway, you know your stuff, though.
But you did know, in all seriousness, you did do the film score for that film, right?
I did,
All right,
yeah.
cool. So I get a consolation prize.
You
Maybe
do.
like a participation ribbon?
You get to keep going.
Nice, there you go. Well, thank you so much for stopping by, David. There's so much to talk to you about. I told you in the back, you have such an amazing career. I mean, it's almost hard to believe when you I of course, knew of you by working in music, and then when I went on, the Wikipedias of the world and just Googled you, I was like, there's no way he was involved in all these songs, you know what I mean? It's really just hit after hit after hit, and you've been deemed the Hitman.
Yeah, that's the name I gave myself. So
Did you give it? I wanted to ask you, where?
No, I don't know where it came from, actually, but I think it had sort of a double entendre of like the gun and the hits. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know where it came from. I did this show in Vegas for the PBS and they titled it Hitman. And it featured 19 artists that I'd worked with, and it was a lot of heavy lifting, but we had Andrea Bocelli and Celine Dion and Josh Groban and Brian McKnight and everybody from my past came on. So
on a night like that, does your impact on music kind of hit you? No pun intended, but does it kind of sink in? When you see how many big names show up for you?
It did, but it was a lot of heavy lifting. But they got to just come out and do 2 songs. I was out there for 4 hours, so I was like busy working. I was working hard that night, but it was a lot of fun. And in retrospect, I'm glad I did it.
Your career is very interesting, and there's some parallels. I mean, some parallels. There's very obvious parallels.
To me and Drake.
To you and Drake, yeah. I mean, you probably get mistaken for Drake all the time. But I'm glad you know what? I'm glad you brought up Drake, because you are the Hitman, and currently the #1 song in America belongs to Drake. It's a song called God's Plan.
God's Plan. I love that song.
Do you love that song?
Love that song. And
what do you love about that song?
Well, I like him because he has melody, he can sing, and he plays piano. And of course, he's Canadian, and I'm Canadian too, so we have that connection. But just coincidentally, I ran into him a few weeks ago, and we talked. And he said, "Man, you got to come over and let's hang and let's write something." And I'm thinking, yeah, Drake wants to write with me. I mean, that would be kind of cool.
Oh, it'd be amazing. And that's what I'm a huge Drake fan. That's what I love about him, is that for a pop star of the day, and he does make hip hop music, but by all means he is a pop star. He has a deep appreciation for the history of music and probably your catalog.
Yeah, and that's you can see people like him and Kanye, just to name 2. Taylor Swift is the same way. They are true. They know the culture. They know from where it came, and I think that's important. I'm not such a fan of like going from the bedroom to the stage without doing all the stuff in the middle, which is playing the clubs, getting beer thrown on you, having people boo you. I hate that, you suck, and all that stuff. Like people that don't go through that, they don't really get to become a real artist. I don't think so.
Right.
But I love today's music. I mean, I think there's a lot of great music out there today. And there's been crappy music every decade.
Right.
Since the beginning
and that's
of
what
time.
people forget. I think people sometimes get to a certain age and they say, well, it was always better back in my day.
Not true.
But what they forget is you're just remembering the highlights. You're not remembering, the misses, so to speak. Speaking of Canadian musicians, though, have you ever interacted with The Weeknd?
I have.
I should probably say Abel, right? You probably know
Abel, yes. Never worked with him, but know his music, love his music. I love the song "Earned It."
Yeah.
50 Shades and everything that he's done.
There are some David Foster vibes in that song.
He's another one that's a student of the history of music, and it shows in his music.
Yeah. Where did your relationship with film come from? Was that like kind of a happenstance thing, whether you're scoring films like we just heard right there, the Celine song from Up Close and Personal, which you produced?
I gave it a shot, back in the '80s, and I scored 8 films, and I wasn't that good at it. I got lucky with St. Elmo's Fire, but then I did a bunch of movies after that that I just wasn't that good at it. But I'm good at writing songs for movies. So I actually got asked to be at a film festival to speak, and I thought, I haven't done that much in film, thinking I'd only scored 8 films. But then I actually Googled myself, swear to God, and I found out that I'd written 87 songs for films. So I thought, I qualify. So writing songs, the great thing about writing a song for a movie, Kevin, is that the movie gets to be your co-writer without getting any credit. You don't have to give it any percentage of the song, but you get given a scene. Like, for instance,
Please.
yeah. This was for the movie Urban Cowboy a long time ago. John Travolta takes the girl up the stairs, and we were given this scene of him taking the girl up the stairs. And Boz and I looked at it about 3 times, and then we went, "Love, look what you've done to me," in Boz's voice, of course, "leading me to feel this way," and it just kind of worked.
Are you adamant about that, about writing the song to the movie, or even seeing the movie before you write the song?
No, but you have to. I mean, like the Bodyguard, which I did the songs for,
Of course.
or many of the songs for. We did that from the script. There was nothing shot because they had to have the music first in order to have the songs, to shoot the songs. So it can come from a script. It can come from just a director giving you, what he wants with no script, no film. And then, of course, when you get a film clip, it's kind of a bonus. But The Bodyguard was just script.
Really?
Yeah.
One of my favorite songs, and I know it's not a David Foster song from a '90s movie, is "Iris" from City of Angels. Goo Goo Dolls, Johnny Redman wrote the song, and he talks about really sitting with the movie, and living with the movie. And I was just curious.
Yeah.
But I guess, in your opinion, there is no really trusted and true path to success. You can do it a number of different ways.
True, and a lot of people think that you can wake up in the middle of the night and get inspired, or you see a sunrise, which is beautiful, and that's going to inspire you to write something. But it doesn't for me. I don't know why, but it just doesn't. It's a job.
Well, I'm so happy you said that quote, because I was going to quote you if you didn't, because I read that in a recent interview you did, that you say, for me, it's not about the sunrises and kind of the cliche things. It's about, at 11 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to go work with this person. We're going to write X amount of songs. And it sounded almost, I don't want to say boring, but it sounded very cold. But you're known for making these sentimental anthems that really draw and play on some of our deepest emotions. So how does that transition happen?
Or as Rolling Stone put it, mushy wussy ballads, I think is what they said, something like that. Well, all right. For instance, can we try a little experiment? Can I pick somebody from the audience?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Should we get a show of hands? Somebody who's a willing participant?
Ma'am. Okay, give me a scenario. Okay, give me I haven't scored a movie in a long time, so this might suck. But give me a scenario. Man meets a woman, girl meets a boy, they fall in love, they fall out of love, she hates him, she loves him. What is it?
That was very specific.
Well, I don't know. They go to the opera. So it's obviously, to me anyway, at least, it's not a happy sort of thing, even though they're in love. So it's more like a minor thing, like. As the lovers are dying. They're dead, but now they're dead. They died, but now love comes, and it can get happy. I don't know.
That was beautiful. Round of applause.
Good job.
Great job on the spot.
My co-writer.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Something funny happened in the mid to late 1990s, and this happens, I guess maybe every decade, right, where the sounds of radio change. I mean, you dominated radio in the mid 1990s, from the Celine song, from Up Close and Personal, Because You Love Me, to Tony Braxton on Break My Heart, and then this guy from Sweden named Max Martin comes along, and just that's the sound. It's teen bubblegum pop. And you didn't really chase the marketplace. You chose to actually kind of go in a different direction, started writing classical pop albums with guys like Michael Bublé and Josh Groban. How hard was that, though, if hard at all, to sort of resist going with that new wave?
Well, it's a great question, and you've done your homework. Good job, Kevin. So, you know, I've led and I've followed, and leading is much more fun than following, although leading has much more pressure involved than following. But when you realize that you have to start following, I think that the smart people, they retreat and attack in another direction. So Max Martin, his sound that Kevin's talking about is Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and this great sound that came from Sweden, and Max is a genius at it, and he's still doing it with Taylor Swift and with Beyonce and with Pink, and he's still writing great songs and producing great songs. So I wasn't able to do that kind of music, so I had two choices. I could try and chase that, or find Andrea Bocelli, find Michael Bublé, find Josh Groban, and just sort of do what I still know how to do. And that carried us all the way through. That carried me through for the next 15 years, and we had a tremendous amount of success. We didn't get on the radio, but our radio, television became our radio, and we sold a lot of CDs, and it worked great. And I think that I embraced the fact that I couldn't do that kind of music, rather than just sit in a room and pout about the fact that I couldn't do it.
Well, how do you know you can't make that kind of music? Because you recently said that you don't make top 40 records anymore. And I wanted to ask you, who made that decision? Was that the market making that decision, or was that you, David Foster, saying, I don't make that anymore?
That was me, because I don't like the concept of the music business saying you can't do it anymore. I'd rather have the concept of me saying I can't do it anymore myself.
So was it more about having control and taking that control before they took it away from you than it was
Exactly right.
having a lack of respect for
Exactly
bubblegum
right.
pop? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love today's music. I mean,
Yeah.
Rihanna's making great records. Taylor's making great records. Max Martin, as you mentioned. Drake is making amazing records. Kanye's still killing it. There's a lot of great stuff out there. I just don't know how to do it. However, if I was to take one more run at writing with people like Drake, who said, you know, hey, come on over, and I would want to try and sprinkle myself into his life and not sit down and dominate. Because if I sat down and dominated, then it would sound like me, and it wouldn't work for him.
Right.
But maybe I would just play a few chords and go, yeah, I can make that work, and leave it with him.
Can we get a little brainstorm? I don't even know if this is possible. I don't know how it works, but can we get a little brainstorm on the keys if you were working with Drake?
Sure. Will you be Drake?
I will be.
Playing the part of Drake today is Kevin. All right, so maybe if I was me and David Foster and being overbearing, I would go, hey, Drake, what do you think about this? Right? And you go, yeah, I don't think that's for me. But I could take those same chords and I could just go. He'll go and a one, he'll go and a, he'll sing over like Drake sings down, then I don't know, no. So that's maybe how it could happen. I don't know. Maybe it just did happen.
This is the coolest thing in the world right now. This is like David Foster's playing us piano.
But that
We're like,
actually,
hey, play this one.
But that actually worked, right? Same
Yeah.
chords, but without the heavy.
So then what did
David
you do?
Foster
Break it
influence.
down. Because all I heard was like it got slower.
No, it didn't get any slower at all. It's the same tempo. Exactly.
tempo, okay,
Same
so then
tempo.
it
I
seems like
just
there was more
eliminated
space.
all the David Foster fluff.
Okay.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Actually, that wasn't bad. I hope we got.
That wasn't bad. If Drake's watching right now,
That's
we
not
might have
bad
the
at
next single after God's Plan.
Yeah, two Canadians going at it.
Yeah, amazing.
But now you mentioned Abel, The Weeknd.
Yes.
I mean, that was quite. That's a record that I believe that I could have
Earned it.
earned it. I
Yes.
could have made, you know, because it's got. It's kind of in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, and it's tied to a film. It
Yes.
was off the 50 Shades of Grey, or one of the
Yeah.
50 Shades
That.
soundtrack.
Yeah. That G-rated film.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a family show. Let's not forget.
Yeah. No, it was a great song.
What happened to the movie Power Ballad? Because when you think about, you know, sorry, Celine, to be harping on you, but,
Yeah.
you know, the Up Close and Personal song, the Bodyguard soundtrack,
Yeah.
you know, you talk about Diane Warren, a frequent collaborator of yours, doing the Aerosmith song from Armageddon.
Yeah, I love
it
that.
It feels like, I mean, beautiful, timeless songs and chart-topping songs, but it feels like that's gone away. Is that a byproduct of just Hollywood changing, or you're sort of the expert in this? Why has that song gone away?
If you look at the songs that have won Oscars in the last few years, they have not been, for the most part, they have not been that memorable. And I don't really know the answer to it, but I think that melody has kind of gone away a little bit. And also, the Academy requires certain things of a song, that it be woven throughout the movie, not just stuck on the end. You used to be able to just stick a song on at the end of a movie and get nominated for an Oscar, and it doesn't work that way anymore. It has to be part of the fabric of the movie, which means it comes from the melody of the score, which means it comes from somebody probably that is not a top 40 person. So maybe that's part of the answer.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that that rule.
Yeah. But you know, in today's music, so the people that complain about today's music, or every generation complains about the next generation, right? Frank Sinatra was like evil until Elvis came along, and then Frank was a goody-goody, and Elvis was evil. And then the Beatles came along, and Elvis was okay, but the Beatles were evil. And then into punk music, and then the Beatles became okay. And so it goes through punk music, and then the grunge sound from Seattle, and then urban music and hip-hop. But if you think about the 60s, okay?
Yeah.
The 60s, there was at least 1,000 songs that had this chord change. Darling, you send me, put your head on my shoulder. I mean, there's 1,000 songs that had those 4 chords. So now, the people that complain about the music today, which is the chords are more like, it's 4 chords, but so what?
Right.
They were doing it in the 60s. It's nothing to complain about. Songs today are good.
How, you know, it's funny. Everyone likes to talk about the financial health or lack thereof of the music industry today with streaming versus sales. How sonically healthy do you feel like music is today?
Well, I used to say that I thought that the music, what did I used to say? The music business is in good shape, but the record business is in terrible shape.
Right.
And so people always are going to have music, and they're always going to have to find a way. And we're not going to make music for free. I mean, we're just not going to do that. And I think streaming has found a way. I thought it would find its place a lot sooner. I mean, this problem's been going on since basically the year 2000, when you could, you know, Napster came in and all that, and you could steal music. So it's taken almost 20 years to fix it, but I think streaming is viable. I think it's healthy. I think that the artists that are suffering right now from streaming are the artists that back in the day would have typically sold 50 to 100,000 records in their first go-around, and they would make a little bit of money, and a record company would give them money to get to the next record. That sort of doesn't happen right now. You can't make any money if you're that artist.
Right.
But the artists that are doing well, the streaming is, I mean, it's very robust. And if you think about it, Spotify, if everybody paid $10 a month, if a billion people paid $10 a month for Spotify to hear any song that ever was, I don't even know how much that is. A billion times $10 times 12, that's 120 billion?
Maybe.
Right? Something like that? I don't know. Maybe.
Get a thumbs up.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot more money than, I mean, the music business, the last time I looked, was down to about 10 billion.
Yeah.
Gross revenue. So I think it could be very robust again, and I think it's right around the corner, and I think it's good.
You're so passionate up here today, and I'm struck by the passion because not too long ago you said you were done making music. So what got you re-excited about it?
I wasn't done making music. I was just tired and bored of myself in the studio. So I'm still out there, as you know, touring. I'm in New York City tomorrow night playing, and all those dates that are there, and we're having a great time. I have 3 great singers with me. I'm producing a couple of television shows. I'm working on a couple of musicals. I want to call them Broadway musicals, but they're actually not on Broadway yet, so I have to call them musicals.
One's about Betty Boop, right?
Right, Betty Boop, the iconic cartoon character. So I'm doing lots. I just got bored with myself in the studio. However, having said that, Michael Bublé called me a few months ago, who we have a long history together, and he said, "Come on, man, let's just go one more time." And so he got me back in the studio, and it's been fun because he's an artist who knows who he is, knows what he wants, knows how to get it.
Right. Speaking of Bublé, he recently said that the world needs more David Foster. Would you agree?
I don't know. The world needs a young David Foster, I think, maybe. I don't know.
Do you think the current environment lends to a new young David Foster?
You know, the only thing constant is change, and it's that way with everything in life, including music. And I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't mind seeing a little more melody come back. The power ballad you talk about at the end of a movie, I wouldn't mind seeing that, but it'll look different than it used to look. I think we're in great shape.
Yeah.
I have no complaints. I'm not that guy that's complaining about the music business.
No.
I
asked because you're somebody that, you know, if you really date it back, you know, one of your first gigs is in a backing band for Chuck Berry.
Right.
You're like a session
guy.
And
I hated his music because I didn't understand it. Because I came from a classical background, you know? And I was doing all that. I wasn't great, but I was good. And when Chuck Berry got a hold of me, I was like, what the hell is... And I couldn't play it very well. He hated me. I didn't like him. It wasn't a good fit. Now I get his contribution to music.
Right.
And
So
how
were you
great it
slow to
was.
rock and roll as a kid? That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm not a rock and roller at all.
Really?
Yeah, although there are moments that I've had that I co-wrote a song called "She's a Beauty" for a group called the Tubes,
I know
which
well.
you know the Tubes from
Yeah.
San Francisco, great rock band. I produced Alice Cooper. I had my little share of rock and roll, but basically I make music that babies are made to. Basically,
There you go. It's some baby making tune.
You know.
Hey, Drake does too, though. So I
he
think
does.
he's working on an album. I
does.
feel like something might be in the works here potentially.
Yeah.
I do want to talk before we go to the studio audience about this tour, the Hitman Tour. You've mentioned, and I think I have too, that you're playing the Town Hall tomorrow night in Manhattan, a really cool venue here.
Yeah.
You're playing my home state of New Jersey. I actually know the Mayo.
Those were
Performance
great gigs. The New Jersey, they're great.
Really?
Yeah, they're fantastic. Those were great gigs. I did one. Oh no, last night was Pennsylvania. But did I mention that I have 3 great singers with me?
No.
I have Shalea, who sings with Stevie Wonder. I have Pia Toscano, who's a former American Idol alum who sings with J-Lo. And I have Fernando Varela, who's an amazing singer from Florida, who has his own PBS special. And they get up and do my Celine, Whitney, Josh Groban, Bocelli stuff, and they kill it.
That's amazing.
So even if I'm bad on a given night, they're great. So I end up looking great.
Yeah, it's a strong team.
Yeah.
Now tickets are still available, probably going fast, but we can go online. We can.
Not sure, but yeah, come on down if you can.
That's
'Cause
awesome.
It's a good show.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine
good
that.
show.
That set list is just like, a greatest hits of probably soundtrack of our lives,
The songs are a little bit bulletproof, so yeah. It's
right?
good.
Confident going out there each night. All right, let's turn it over to our studio audience. We got the first one right
Hi,
up front.
David.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
I wanted to ask you, how was it to work with Whitney, MJ, all the great, artists
Whitney,
of the past that are not
MJ, Mary
here
J.
anymore?
Is that what you mean? Did you say Mary J? Or?
Oh, Michael Jackson.
Oh, Michael Jackson. Oh, yes.
And also, who from now, like in different genres, would you be interested in working with?
Well, we've already discussed Drake.
Who do you think that you
I think
are interested in?
I think
maybe?
Beyonce is amazing. I think Pink is amazing. I think Ariana Grande, who I have worked with, is amazing. Whitney. I mean, she's one of a kind. When she went, take my, I was like, it's like, oh my God, what a force. And then on the song I Will Always Love You from the Bodyguard, which I didn't write, I just produced, Kevin said, I want her to sing the first part without music, If I said, Kevin, that's a terrible idea. Go ahead for your movie if that's what you want. But when I make the record, the final record, it's going to have music behind it. So she gets up on stage and they're filming her, and she starts with the "If I" with no music. It was like, again, like I'm not putting any music to that part. So Kevin knew more than me at that moment. And Michael Jackson,
What an honor.
he was something. And what I learned from Michael is, and I've read it in print too, and he told it to me, and I didn't believe him, but then I read it in print. He said that his favorite song he ever did was a song that I did with him, which was not a hit, but it was called Smile. He just loved that song. He loved Charlie Chaplin. He loved that. Charlie Chaplin co-wrote that song, and so Michael said that was his favorite song he'd ever done, so I feel pretty good about that, because, by the way, have you heard Thriller, Michael? It's pretty great.
I didn't know that you actually produced I Will Always Love You off
Yeah.
the Bodyguard. So how much did you give any thought to the Dolly Parton original? Like when you're producing a cover,
Yeah.
right? A reimagining maybe. How does the original play into that?
Well, I really did reimagine it. And in fact, it's great you asked about that song, because I'd never heard the song before, believe it or not. And I didn't know that Dolly wrote it. And so I went to the record store, couldn't go online back then, and I got Linda Ronstadt's version. And that's the only version I had as a reference. So the whole, I conjured up in my head the whole boom and the big moment and all that. But Linda Ronstadt didn't do a third verse. So when I called Dolly, because she was a friend of mine, I said, guess what? I'm in with Whitney and we're doing your song. And she said, oh, great, I can't imagine how great it is. I can't wait till you get to that third verse, because that's the, and I'm going like, what third verse? There's no third verse. We're finished. There's no, what? No, she said, no, Linda didn't do the third verse. You've got to do the third verse. So we had to go back in and do the third verse. Thank God I called her.
Right? Yeah.
'Cause that is the best verse.
Amazing. Let's get to our second studio audience question right
I'm
here.
going to go back to the beginning. I grew up with Skylark and the song Wildflower, and I want to ask
Wow.
you how that all came about, if you're still in
man.
touch with Johnny Gerard, the singer, and all that. And
Yeah, while we were a one-hit wonder, Skylark. Song was "Let Her Cry, for She's a Lady," written by our guitar player Doug Edwards and a friend of mine who was a policeman named Dave Richardson, and it was our group, and we put it together. We were a one-hit wonder, but that led to me moving to Los Angeles. And Donnie Gerard, the lead singer, funny you should ask.
He's with Staples now, right?
Yeah, he's with the Staples Singers. He's an amazing singer, but it's funny that you should ask because I talk about him in my show because he didn't really like my music. He was a great singer, is a great singer. He said, if you really want to be hip, you got to study people like Earth, Wind, and Fire and like work with them. Then you'll have made it. And so I made it my mission to work with Earth, Wind, and Fire. It took me 6 years, but I finally tracked down Earth, Wind, and Fire. And with my friends Jay and Bill, we wrote this song. And oh, and after the love is gone, what used to be right is wrong. So I have Donnie Gerard to thank for getting me to Earth, Wind, and Fire. Thanks for asking me.
Great question.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's awesome. All right, we have time for one more question from the studio
Can't
audience.
be done already?
Isn't it crazy? Like I said in the back, I wish we had 2 hours. Where? Oh, right here. I'm sorry.
Please tell us about your most memorable moments of working with some of the performers we know, and how do you adapt your style to each of them, to their unique instrument of voice?
That's a great question. She asked, how do you adapt your style? And I learned early on that, slamming your footprint and your fingerprint on an artist is sometimes a good thing, but sometimes it can be a very bad thing. Like the group Chicago that I worked with and did so many songs with, I really forced my ballad style on them. We did come up with good songs. Peter Cetera and I, like, everybody needs a little time away. But the rest of the group wasn't really feeling that style of music. So I've learned in the last 20 years to be a little more adapting. Like I produced Diana Krall a few years ago, and she's such an amazing musician. I just sort of guided her rather than forcing my thumbprint on her, and it works better that way. But there have been some tantrums in the studio. I'm not a pushover, and most of the artists I work, I don't think you would think that Madonna or Barbra Streisand are pushovers. Would anybody? No, they're great, they're amazing, but it's a yin and a yang for sure.
How do you decide in the studio whether you're going to have to be aggressive or take a step back?
I think it's probably like a marriage. There's days you wake up and you go, yeah, I'm going to go at him today, or I'm going to go at her today. And then there's other days, then you just go, you know what? It's a small thing, I'm just going to let it ride. And like everything else, you have to pick your battles. And I don't believe in compromise, because I think compromise breeds mediocrity. So in a very simple way of putting it, if you and I are working together and we're getting to the end of the song, and I want the note to be big and high, and you want the note to end soft like this, it'll either end soft or it'll end high, but it will not end in the middle, because that's compromise.
Have you ever, or maybe I should rephrase this question, what is the biggest hit that you really had to fight the artist on while making it?
There was a song that I didn't write, but I produced for Chicago called Hard Habit to Break, which was a #1 song, and a great song written by my friend Steve Kipner. And the group really, really didn't want to do it. I begged them. Actually, some of the Tubes didn't want to do She's a Beauty either.
Really?
So, yeah, sometimes you have to, like, force. And then there's other times when I've forced it, and they've been right, and I was wrong. Probably more times that way than the other way.
Yeah, he says humbly. Well, David, thank you so much. Again, we got the tour dates up on the screen right here. He's going to be playing Manhattan's Town Hall tomorrow night. Thank you very much for stopping by, and thank you at home for watching.
I'll play out with a song that you didn't know.
Please, yes.
Now what is it?
St. Elmo's Fire.
Yes!